In this episode of Today in World War II, November 24th, a German heavy cruiser has a nice win. A couple of Luftwaffe prisoners of war in England almost pull off the escape of the century. A German U-boat off of Brazil sinks a Allied ship and makes a nice snack for the sharks in the area. A British sergeant wins the Victoria Cross in the tropical hellhole of New Guinea. And a Japanese submarine takes out a U.S. carrier. That was a nice scalp for them. And finally, the French take two cities in their own country and get some payback for the German invasion. So let's get started. All right, today on November 24th, the German heavy cruiser Admiral Scheer came upon the path of a British merchant ship near the Azores off of Spain and Portugal. And of course, what are you going to do? You're a merchant ship, and all of a sudden a heavy cruiser comes up to you, which is one step down from a battleship. Are you going to sit there and fire machine guns at them or take pot shots with a rifle? Or are you going to take the path of least resistance and say, we give up? Well, that's what the crew of the Port Hobart did. They immediately surrendered. The Admiral Scheer allowed them to vacate the ship, disembark, get in their lifeboats, and then the skeleton crew scuttled the ship, and then they abandoned the ship as well, and they were later rescued. I just want to say a couple things about this. This was still 1940. The Royal Navy wasn't dominant yet. The Americans had not come into the war. So most of British naval potential was doing a couple of things, escorting convoys, and it was laying in wait for any German surface raiders that might want to help the potential invasion across the English Channel from France into England. So that was their main priority, which meant the Germans could slip a warship through like a cruiser, in this case, Admiral Scheer, through the British blockade and start and feast on merchant ships who were not escorted. And for a couple of years, I'd say probably until late 41, they could do that. But that was those, 40 was a golden year for them because they still had conditions that favored them being able to prey on weak targets. The German warships did not want to go against the Royal Navy because they didn't have the numbers. Their quality was as good, if not better, and sometimes than the Royal Navy, but they weren't good enough. They didn't have enough numbers to stand up to an entire fleet, which is what the Royal Navy would do when they saw a German warship. If they had a chance to get it, they would. They'd send out, aircraft carriers, battleships, and so on and so forth. So in this case, though, it was still the happy times. The German surface fleet could still, do their part to throttle the Brits with a blockade of ships coming from the United States and Canada. And in this case, it was a good day for the Admiral Scheer. I hope this will be a good day for me as well. And it will be if you click the subscribe button and you also click on the bell, which means that YouTube will notify you whenever I drop a new video. I do drop a video every day. So you want to make sure that you are aware of that. And the way to do that is to click on the subscribe button and the bell. Thank you. Now, I'm going to take a little time on this one because this story absolutely blew me away. On November 24th, 1941, two Luftwaffe pilots who had been shot down over England and had been taken prisoner and were in a POW camp in England. It was Lieutenant Heinz Schnabel and Oberlieutenant Harry Wappler. They decided they were going to escape, and they made it out of the camp. But you would think that, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to swim across the English Channel? You're not going to do that. It's probably going to be very difficult to get a boat. So the idea that England is on an island might keep them from trying to escape. But these two adventurous, brave souls, they decided to say, what the heck, we'll do it. And their plan was ingenious. Once they got out, they were able to fashion a semblance of a RAF uniform that was well enough to pass, and they were to get on a RAF base and pass themselves off as Dutch RAF pilots. It worked. They were actually able to board a RAF plane and take off. But can you imagine the feeling that the exhilaration, hey, I finally did it. We did it. We're out of here. And then realize there's not enough gas in the tank to make it to France. And so they had two choices. Well, they could just, die heroic death and crash land into the channel or just turn back. Well, they turned back. I am an absolute nut about World War II escape history. I visited Colditz, the most famous prison camp in Germany. I inhale stories of escapes. This is one of the most daring escapes I've ever heard of. Even though they're the enemy, I kind of hope they would have succeeded, but oh well, it didn't work out. But what an attempt. Good for them. And so what's good for you is to like my this video. How hard is it to move that cursor down and hit like? It's not hard for you, and it does wonders for me in the algorithm. So please do me a solid. And you know what? What's even more important? Comment. Say, hey, I like this video. That's all you need to do. It's all for the algorithm. It helps my channel grow, helps get my channel out in front of more people. So if you like my content, then the logical thing to do is to pay me back, not with money, but just doing that nice thing for me. Thanks. Okay, on November 24th, 1941, a British U-boat sank a Royal Navy cruiser, the HMS Dunedin. This happened in about 650 miles east of Brazil. This is in the tropics. Water's warm, lots of sharks. Well, the ship sank, and there was about I guess around 500 and something crew sailors on the ship. So 236 died in the original attack. 250, approximately 250 sailors survived and they had to take to the water. By the time they were rescued, only 67 were left. What happened? Well, some of them died of their wounds, but most of them were eaten by sharks. I tell you, there's nothing more terrifying than the idea that you're in the water, there's no rescue, a rescue is still hours away, and you've got blood in the water from all the wounds, and here come the sharks. And this was before, the Japanese and the Chinese started, hunting sharks all over the ocean. They were still very plentiful. And, they didn't look at these sailors as human beings. They looked at them as lunch. And boy, they chomped down. So what a horrific experience. Oh my gosh, I can't even think about that. Switching topics, on November 24th, 1943, British Army Sergeant Thomas Derrick won the Victoria Cross in New Guinea after volunteering to go out alone to take out Japanese machine gun positions. Okay, look, it's not like he went out and knocked out one machine gun nest. Okay, Audie Murphy, the American hero soldier, knocked out a machine gun nest. He didn't get the Medal of Honor. I think he got a Silver Star for that. This guy took out 10 machine gun nests on his own, and he knocked them out with one grenade each. I think he deserved more than the Victoria Cross. They should have invented another medal for valor for that because one medal is not enough for that. So by doing that, he almost single-handedly enabled his Australian soldier comrades to be able to continue to advance. Keep in mind, this is in Papua New Guinea. This is the tropics. This is jungle. You can barely see 2 feet in front of you. And so the odds that he would be able to even get close to the Japanese, much less take out 10 of their machine gun nests, boggles the imagination. So, wow, good on him. That was an amazing, amazing, brave act that he did. And finally, on November 24th, 1943, a Japanese submarine, I-75, was able to sink a U.S. carrier, the Liscome Bay, off of Macon Atoll. Now, Macon Atoll was where Tarawa is, and that's where that horrible invasion happened. The Linscombe Bay was flying cover for the invasion. They were launching strike aircraft to attack the Japanese who were dug in on Tarawa, who were killing the Marines. And the Japanese sent a submarine. The submarine got through the destroyer escort and was able to, fire off a couple of torpedoes. And it they hit in the stern, took off the stern completely, and the ship sank within 23 minutes. Of the total crew complement, 644 sailors died, officers and men. So that was a quite the victory for that submarine. The problem the Japanese had was that they only believed in sending their submarines after Navy ships. They ignored the merchant marine. They would have been far better served to do what we did and what the Germans did in the Atlantic, was to focus on the merchant ships to cut off supply. But they felt like that wasn't honorable in the Bushido philosophy that they had, that they need to go out and kill the enemy, armed enemy, and not go after merchant ships who were unarmed. And there was no glory. There was a lot of glory taken out of carrier, not so much a oil tanker, but the oil tanker in some ways was more valuable than the escort carrier, which they took out this time. So that's just my 2 cents. Again, the Japanese had a horrible strategic plan for this war against the Americans, and then tactically they made so many blunders. It's surprising they lasted as long as they did. Frankly, if it wasn't for their fanaticism and their bravery and fighting to the last man, they would have been rolled up pretty quickly because they were not very smart when it came to their tactics and strategy. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will have a video for you tomorrow, I promise, November 25th. In the meantime, we close the book on November 24th, and thanks again.